Over 3.3 crore cases, more than 4.4 lakh deaths. India's COVID numbers are rising on a daily basis. This paves way to so many questions for common man about the way forward in tackling this deadly virus. Today, we have with us Dr. Gagandeep Khan, one of the top virologists in the country and a professor at the Christian Medical College in Vellore. Coming straight to the point, Dr. Khan, there are a lot of concerns regarding the third wave. Are we already into that phase and how deadly it would be?
I don't think we are into a third wave, and I don't know how we would define a third wave looking at the future. One way of thinking about waves is the pattern that is seen in epidemics at different levels. And if we think about the national pattern for India, we had one large wave that peaked in September of 2020. And then we had a second much sharper peak that was across March, April, and May of this year, declining quite significantly by June. What we are seeing now is a number of cases that is not higher than anything that we have seen from June onwards. So it would be very difficult to say that we are in a third wave. Will we ever see numbers again that were like the first wave and the second wave, or will future waves be smaller? I think that's hard to say at the national level. If there are no new variants that are able to evade the immune response and able to spread very well, then I think it's extremely unlikely that we will see numbers that resemble anything like the second wave.
You concluded it nicely talking about the variants. My next question naturally is about variants. The World Health Organization has said COVID variants that can evade vaccines are increasingly likely. How much of a risk is this? Is it something that we should be worried about?
As long as we have a lot of virus replicating in any part of the world, and currently we have very high rates globally, there is a likelihood that we will have variants that will be able to change characteristics. And the characteristics we are interested in is transmission and immune escape. Now, transmission we have seen with alpha being better than the ancestral variant, delta being better than alpha. The immune escape, fortunately for us, was greatest with the beta variant. But the beta variant, even though it escapes immunity very well, doesn't spread very well. So it has not established itself globally, unlike the alpha and the delta variants. Will we wind up with a variant that has characteristics of transmission and immune escape? As long as we continue to have high levels of replication, that is a threat. And we need to make sure that we are doing our best to both counter that threat by suppressing replication, by vaccinating people, by limiting transmission of infection.
Something that raised eyebrows was the rise in number of cases in states like Kerala that did reasonably well during the first wave. Why is it that the southern state is recording the maximum number of cases now? Is it because of the lower zero positivity rate, or are there any other reasons that you want to mention?
There are multiple factors at play, but the fact that Kerala has done a good job so far, or did a good job in the first 18 months of the pandemic, meant that Kerala also had a large proportion of its population being susceptible to infection. And when you have a large susceptible population, it's not unnatural that once a virus gets in there, you will see a large number of cases. But I think it is time for us to move beyond counting cases to counting the actual things that matter. And what matters is hospitalizations and deaths. We did not wind up in a situation where Kerala was struggling for oxygen, or Kerala was struggling for ventilator beds, or where deaths had climbed to above the national average. Kerala continues to be well below the national average where deaths are concerned, at least in the ways that we measure deaths at the moment.
Coming back to the third phase, there is a lot of doubt that how it is going to affect kids. What do you feel about schools reopening and also vaccination plans for kids?
So we have data from the Sero surveys that shows that 60% of children are already exposed to the virus. And we don't have 60% vaccine coverage in the country among adults as yet. With the single dose, currently we have about 40+% coverage. So I don't think we should worry about getting vaccines to children, because quite frankly, I don't think that they are going to be disproportionately affected when and if there is a third wave. Will we need vaccines for children at some point in the future? I think that is likely, but we really should be focusing our effort on measuring disease in children much better than we have done so far. Especially looking at what is infection, what is mild disease, what is severe disease, what are the outcomes in children. That will allow us to assess the risk to children from the infection, and the potential risk to children from vaccination will then need to be counterbalanced against that. We know that with some vaccines like the mRNA vaccines, there is viral myocarditis that disproportionately affects the young. We know that there is thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome. How important is that going to be in Indian children? At the moment, we have no clue because we don't have the tools to measure all of this. So I'm not against vaccines for children or protecting children in many ways. I just don't think that the time is right for that now.
Dr. Kang, it was wonderful listening to one of the most informed minds in our country regarding the ongoing pandemic.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.